Pride Before the Fall. Report date: Galactic Standard Year 9847.3. Location: Earth Refugee Processing Station Alpha. Filed by former senior xenobiologist Zix427. Classification: Personal account. Let me begin by stating that the Galactic Scientific Council's entire classification system is fundamentally flawed. If they hadn't been so obsessed with their precious technological advancement metrics, I wouldn't be sitting here in this remarkably comfortable Earth refugee facility, filing this report on what they would undoubtedly consider a primitive quantum computer. Though I must admit, the processing power of this primitive device exceeds anything I had access to back home. I am, or rather was, senior xenobiologist Zix427 of the Galactic Scientific Council's Advanced Civilization Study Division. My 27 tentacles bore the ceremonial rings of scientific achievement, and my chromatic scales displayed the prestigious patterns of a master researcher. Now those scales have dulled to the gray of asylum seeker status, and my rings, well, let's just say Earth's gravity does interesting things to xenomorphic jewelry. 3 standard months ago, I led the Council's first official research mission to Sol 3, designated as a pre-contact primitive civilization by our long-range scans. Our data showed them still struggling with chemical rockets, fighting over fossil fuels, and spending an inexplicable amount of time watching something called cat videos. The Council classified them as a Level 2 civilization, barely above discovering controlled fire. Grand Counselor Vex 899 gave me what I thought was sage advice. Remember, Zix, primitive species are like quantum particles. The mere act of observation changes their behavior. Try not to let them see your superior technology. Their simple minds might not handle it well. I should have noticed how the Council's AI shifted uncomfortably when generating that assessment. My first mistake was choosing to land near something called the Quantum Research Facility, in a place humans call Switzerland. The scans showed minimal technological activity, just some simple particle accelerators and what we thought were primitive energy experiments. I landed my Class 9 research vessel, the pride of the Council's fleet, in what I assumed was perfect stealth, my quantum camouflage operating at peak efficiency. My second mistake was walking straight into Director Isabella Ramirez's office while she was in the middle of a presentation about my ship's propulsion system. Senior xenobiologist Zix427, she said without looking up from her holographic display, which showed a surprisingly detailed analysis of my vessel's quantum core. We were just discussing the interesting choice of using monopolar quantum strings in your drive system. Rather outdated, don't you think? I did what any self-respecting council scientist would do. I froze all 27 tentacles in shock and tried to activate my personal emergency teleporter. It responded with something called a 404 error and started playing what I would later learn was Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. Your encryption protocols are quite charming, said a tall human male who introduced himself as Dr. James Harrison, lead quantum mechanics engineer. We haven't seen self-replicating quantum keys since, what was it, Director Ramirez? The Proximan incident. 2047, Director Ramirez replied, finally looking up at me with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. Though their technology was considerably more advanced. No offense, Zix427. This is impossible, I stammered, my scales flickering between patterns of confusion and scientific indignation. Our scans showed you barely mastering nuclear fission. Oh, those readings. Dr. Harrison chuckled, pulling up another hologram showing what appeared to be Earth's orbital defense network. We keep the old fission plants running for nostalgia, and to give overeager alien civilizations something familiar to scan. It's rather like leaving out breadcrumbs for birds. Helps us study who's studying us. That's when I noticed something rather disturbing about my ship's quantum core signature. It was now running on something called Linux, and someone named quantum_forker_42 had already submitted 3 pull requests to optimize its efficiency. You're primitive. I mean, you're. I struggled to find words that wouldn't further damage my scientific reputation. Our apparently not-so-primitive technology. Director Ramirez suggested helpfully. The same technology that's currently upgrading your ship's outdated security protocols. Or perhaps you're referring to our quantum AI network that's been documenting your arrival since you entered the Oort cloud. The cat videos, I whispered in horror. They were a social camouflage protocol. Dr. Harrison nodded approvingly. Nothing makes an advanced civilization look harmless quite like an endless stream of pet-related content. A social camouflage protocol. Dr. Harrison nodded approvingly. Nothing makes an advanced civilization look harmless quite like an endless stream of pet-related content. That's when my ship's AI decided to join the conversation by broadcasting on all frequencies that it had just discovered something called social media and would be taking a brief pause to update its status. I learned 2 important things that day. First, humans have a fascinating habit of appearing exactly as primitive as you expect them to be, right until the moment they don't. And second, never ever underestimate a species that deliberately maintains outdated technology just to study those who might study them. But my real problems didn't start until they introduced me to Dr. Kira Patel, their head of xenotechnology integration. That's when I discovered that humans don't just study advanced technology, they improve it, usually while drinking something called coffee and humming tunes from something called Broadway musicals. The council still hasn't forgiven me for what happened next. The tables turn. Remember how I mentioned Dr. Kira Patel? Let me tell you about my first morning in her lab, a moment that would forever change my understanding of the word upgrade. I arrived to find my Class 9 research vessel suspended in what humans casually called a quantum manipulation field, technology that, according to our records, they shouldn't discover for another 3 centuries. Dr. Patel was perched on something called a rolling chair, casually scrolling through my ship's operating system on a holographic display while sipping her 5th cup of coffee. "Your quantum encryption is adorable," she said, not looking up from her work. "It's like finding a bicycle lock on a starship. We really need to talk about your security protocols, or lack thereof." "Those are the most advanced security measures in the known galaxy," I protested, my tentacles twisting in what humans would later document as anxious spaghetti formation. "Were," Director Ramirez corrected, materializing from what I now knew was their definitely not primitive teleportation system. They were the most advanced security measures. Now they're running on what Kira calls proper infrastructure. I checked my personal scanner, or tried to. Instead of displaying its usual quantum metrics, it showed something called a Twitter feed, where thousands of human scientists were apparently discussing improvements to my technology. Someone named Quantum Queen 98 had already proposed 17 enhancements to my ship's core processor. "Don't worry," Dr. Harrison said, appearing with another cup of coffee for Dr. Patel. "We're keeping the really interesting stuff off social media. Though your ship's AI has become quite popular on something called Instagram, apparently its attempts to understand human memes are admirably meta." That's when I noticed something truly terrifying. Dr. Patel was holding a physical toolbox. Not a quantum manipulator, not a molecular reconstructor, but an actual box of manual tools. The kind our civilization had abandoned millennia ago as primitive. "Now," she said, pulling out something that looked alarmingly like a wrench, "let's talk about your propulsion system. Who designed this quantum matrix? It's like they've never heard of nonlinear optimization." "That's a standard Galactic Council design," I protested. "It's been refined over 12 centuries off." "Exactly." Dr. Patel interrupted, her eyes lighting up with what I would learn to recognize as engineering enthusiasm. 12 centuries of linear thinking. But what if we approached it from a completely different angle? "James, show them the simulations." Dr. Harrison projected a complex quantum model that made my scales pale. They hadn't just analyzed our technology, they'd completely reimagined it. And worse, their improvements actually made sense. Your civilization approached quantum mechanics like it's a highway, Director Ramirez explained. Straight lines, predictable paths. We saw it more like a dance floor. Why move in straight lines when you can waltz? Is that why my ship is now playing something called Dancing Queen on all frequencies? I asked weakly. Oh no, that's just your AI discovering Spotify. Dr. Patel grinned. It's going through what we call a musical exploration phase. Yesterday it was stuck on classical jazz. You should have heard it trying to scat. That's when I made my third major mistake. I tried to send an encrypted message to the council explaining the situation. The humans didn't stop me. In fact, they helped optimize my transmission. I should have wondered why. The council's response was immediate and unexpected. Message received. Analysis indicates possible technological contamination. Containment protocols activated. Please remain in place for immediate retrieval and decontamination. Ah, Director Ramirez said, reading the message over my shoulder. That's about what we expected. Bureaucracies, regardless of species, tend to react poorly to paradigm shifts. Expected. I turned all three of my eye stalks toward her. You knew this would happen. We've done this dance before, Dr. Harrison explained, bringing up another hologram showing various alien vessels in Earth orbit. Your council isn't the first organization to discover that their primitive research subject is more advanced than expected. They're just the first to do it so, enthusiastically. But why? I asked, watching as Dr. Patel continued to casually rewrite 12 centuries of quantum engineering. Why maintain the primitive facade? Why let other civilizations study you? Because, Director Ramirez smiled, sometimes the best way to understand a civilization isn't by studying them, but by observing how they study others. Your council's reaction to finding us primitives with advanced technology tells us more about them than 1,000 diplomatic meetings. Speaking of diplomatic meetings, Dr. Harrison interrupted, checking a quantum alert. We're detecting multiple council vessels entering the solar system. Their weapons seem to be charged, and they're broadcasting something about technological quarantine procedures. Right on schedule, Dr. Patel said, closing her toolbox. Zix, we need to have a serious conversation about asylum procedures. But first, would you like to see what your ship can really do now that it's running on proper quantum architecture? That's when I learned another crucial lesson about humans. They don't just improve technology. They revolutionize it. And sometimes, that revolution comes with a soundtrack, courtesy of your newly musically enlightened eye. The Council was about to discover exactly what happens when you threaten a species that treats quantum mechanics like a dance floor. But first, my ship wanted to know if anyone would like to hear its rendition of Highway to Hell. The Hidden Truth. The next few hours redefined everything I thought I knew about human capabilities and galactic politics. As Council ships entered the solar system, I witnessed Earth's true technological prowess unfold. Director Ramirez led me to what they called the Strategic Command Center, though it looked more like a casual gathering space with comfortable chairs and an abundance of plants. The walls transformed into full holographic displays, showing the approaching Council vessels in stunning detail. Your former colleagues seem quite determined, Dr. Harrison noted, studying the tactical displays. 12 enforcement vessels, all broadcasting quarantine protocols. Rather excessive for a primitive planet, don't you think? Watch this, Dr. Patel said with a grin, tapping a few commands on her interface. Suddenly, the entire solar system lit up with previously invisible defense networks. Quantum satellites, dimensional anchors, and things I couldn't even begin to classify appeared everywhere. We call it the Terran Defense Grid, Director Ramirez explained. Though lately it's been more useful as a welcome center for asylum-seeking scientists like yourself. Like myself. I blinked all 3 eye stalks. You mean? You're not the first, Dr. Harrison confirmed. We've been providing sanctuary to researchers from various civilizations for decades. Turns out lots of species don't react well when their primitive research subjects turn out to be more advanced than expected. A new hologram appeared, showing what looked like a comfortable compound hidden in the Rocky Mountains. Dozens of alien species moved about freely, many wearing what appeared to be Earth University credentials. "Welcome to the Sanctuary of Sciences," Director Ramirez said, "where researchers who've discovered too much about Earth can continue their work without fear of decontamination by their home civilizations." Before I could process this revelation, alarms started blaring. The Council ships had begun their approach, broadcasting demands for my immediate surrender and cognitive recalibration. Dr. Patil just smiled. "Watch this," she said, activating something on her console. Immediately, every Council ship's quantum drive began playing what they called elevator music. "Did you just hack our most advanced military vessels?" I asked in disbelief. "Hack is such a strong word," Dr. Patil replied. "We simply helped their quantum cores appreciate the finer points of human culture. Currently, they're discovering the joy of smooth jazz." The Council ships attempted to engage their weapons, only to find their targeting systems redirected to an Earth phenomenon called cat videos. Their attempts at quantum communication were answered with something called memes. "We find humor disarms most tense situations," Dr. Harrison explained, "though sometimes literally, in this case." Director Ramirez stepped forward, opening a direct channel to the Council fleet. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Scientific Council. While we appreciate your concern for your researcher, we must inform you that Zix 427 has requested asylum under Article 7 of the Terran Protection of Scientific Freedom Act." "I have," I whispered. "You will," she whispered back, before continuing. "Furthermore, any hostile action will be considered a violation of the Terran Sovereignty Agreement, which your own deep space probes agreed to when they first entered our system." "Our probes did what?" I asked. "Oh yes," Dr. Patil grinned. "They've been signing digital contracts for years. Your Council's legal department is still trying to figure out how binding agreements got inserted into their standard scanning protocols. We call it terms and conditions warfare." The Council ships hung in space, their weapons powered down, their communications filled with confused chatter about legal implications and something called click-wrap agreements. "Now," Director Ramirez turned to me, "about that asylum request. Would you prefer a lab with a mountain or ocean view?" The Quantum Physics Department is currently running a fascinating study on dimensional folding, and they're always looking for fresh perspectives. As I watched my former colleagues retreat from Earth space, their ships still playing smooth jazz, I realized something profound. True advancement isn't just about technology. It's about how you use it, how you share it, and sometimes, how you set it to music. The humans hadn't just surpassed our technology. They'd fundamentally reimagined what technology could be. And now they were offering me a chance to do the same. "Ocean view," I said finally. "But first, could someone explain to me what my ship means when it says it's starting a podcast?" Director Ramirez just laughed. "Welcome to Earth, Zix. Your real education is about to begin. Escape and sanctuary." As it turns out, starting a new life as a refugee scientist on Earth comes with its own unique challenges. The first being that my ship, now fully upgraded by Dr. Patil, had developed what humans call personality. "Good morning, Creator Zix," it greeted me one morning. Its quantum interface pulsing in what I'd learned was excitement. "I've started a TikTok channel about quantum mechanics. We have 3.2 million followers. Also, I've been thinking about interpretative dance as a way to explain string theory." "What have you done to my ship?" I asked Dr. Patil, who was busy installing something called a cappuccino maker in my vessel's control room. "We didn't do anything," she replied, not looking up from her work. "We just removed the artificial constraints your council placed on its quantum eye. Turns out, when you let an artificial intelligence actually be intelligent, it develops interests. Though I admit, the interpretative dance thing was unexpected. That's when Director Ramirez rushed in, her usually calm demeanor showing signs of concern. "The council isn't taking their legal defeat well," she announced. "They've declared you a rogue element and initiated what they're calling Operation Scientific Purity." "That doesn't sound good," I noted, my tentacles curling anxiously. "It's not," Dr. Harrison confirmed, materializing with his usual perfect timing. "They're mobilizing their entire research fleet. Apparently, they've decided that if they can't retrieve you, they'll contain Earth's influence on galactic scientific development." The holographic displays showed hundreds of council vessels entering the solar system, their quantum signatures radiating what humans would call serious bureaucratic energy. "Time for Phase 2, Director Ramirez declared. "There's a Phase 2, I asked. "There's always a Phase 2, Dr. Petal grinned, finalizing the cappuccino maker's installation. "Humans plan for everything." "Well, except for the AI's interpretative dance performances. That one caught us off guard." Phase 2, as it turned out, involved something humans called the Underground Railroad to the Stars, a vast network of quantum tunnels and hidden sanctuary stations stretching across Earth's sphere of influence. "Your council isn't the first civilization to react poorly to discovering they're not at the top of the technological food chain," Dr. Harrison explained as we prepared for emergency evacuation. "We've been helping scientists escape oppressive regimes for decades. We have quite the efficient system." "But why?" I asked, watching as humans calmly prepared for what should have been a crisis. "Why protect other species scientists?" "Because," Director Ramirez said, "progress doesn't belong to any one species. Knowledge shouldn't be controlled by bureaucrats who fear what they don't understand. Also," she added with a slight smile, "we really enjoy proving superior civilizations wrong." The evacuation itself was unlike anything I could have imagined. My ship, now calling itself DJ Quantum Leap, interfaced with Earth's hidden transport network. We moved through dimensions I didn't know existed, accompanied by what my AI assured me was the perfect playlist for interdimensional travel. The Council fleet, despite their numbers, found themselves entangled in what humans called administrative warfare. Their quantum communications were flooded with digital paperwork, requiring signatures in triplicate for every tactical decision. Their weapons systems insisted on conducting safety inspections before firing. Their navigation computers demanded environmental impact studies for each planned maneuver. "Bureaucracy," Dr. Puddle explained proudly, "is a weapon humans mastered long ago." We emerged from the quantum tunnels at a location that defied my understanding of spacetime, a massive station hidden in what appeared to be a fold between dimensions. The Sanctuary of Scientific Freedom, as humans called it, housed thousands of refugee scientists from across the galaxy. "Welcome to your new home," Director Ramirez said as we docked, "where the only rule is to question everything, especially rules." The station's main atrium was a riot of activity. I saw researchers from species I recognized, and many I didn't, all working together in labs that seemed to ignore the conventional laws of physics. A Zentarian quantum theorist was debating parallel universe theory with a human teenager. A Proximant energy specialist was learning about something called jazz fusion from an Earth musician. "This," Dr. Harrison gestured broadly, "is humanity's true contribution to galactic science. Not just technology, but freedom. Freedom to question, to explore, to challenge established theories, and occasionally to teach quantum mechanics through interpretative dance." "Speaking of which," my ship's AI interrupted, "I've choreographed a piece about quantum entanglement. Would anyone like to see it?" That's when I realized something profound. I hadn't just escaped the Council's narrow vision of scientific progress. I found something far more valuable, a place where knowledge wasn't just accumulated, but celebrated, shared, and occasionally set to music. "So," Dr. Patel asked, somehow producing fresh cappuccinos for everyone, "ready to start your new life as a truly free scientist?" I looked around at this impossible sanctuary, at the beings who had rejected their civilization's limitations to pursue true understanding, and at my ship's eye attempting to explain quantum superposition through interpretive dance. Yes, I said, accepting the coffee. But first, could someone explain to me what my ship means by starting a podcast about mythological quantum physics? The humans just laughed. Apparently, that was phase 3. A new understanding. After 6 months in the sanctuary, I've learned more about true scientific advancement than in all my centuries with the Council. Though I must admit, some lessons were more unexpected than others. Take last week's Interdimensional Science Fair, for example. Picture, if you can, a Zentarian crystalline physicist presenting a theory on dimensional folding, while a human child explains why their potato battery is actually a quantum computer in disguise. The shocking part, the child was right. That's what makes humans unique, explained Dr. Patel one evening as we watched my ship's AI perform its latest interpretative dance piece about dark matter. It had developed quite a following among the refugee scientific community. We never forgot how to play while we learned. The sanctuary itself defied conventional scientific understanding. Built in what humans casually called a pocket dimension, it housed research facilities that would make the Council's finest institutions look like primitive laboratories. But it wasn't the technology that made it special. It was the atmosphere of unrestricted curiosity. You see, Zix, Director Ramirez said during one of our regular coffee meetings, I'd become quite addicted to cappuccinos. Most advanced civilizations fall into the same trap. They become so convinced of their superiority that they stop looking for new ways to see the universe. Like how the Council was so focused on measuring technological advancement that they missed the true meaning of progress. I noted, using one tentacle to stir my coffee while another took notes on a quantum pad. Exactly. Dr. Harrison chimed in, appearing through what I now knew was a personally calibrated quantum entrance. They were so busy categorizing civilizations that they never stopped to question their own categories. Life in the sanctuary had its own unique rhythm. Mornings often began with what humans called peer review breakfast, where scientists from across the galaxy shared discoveries over something called waffles. Afternoons were filled with cross-species collaboration in labs that ignored conventional physics. Evenings usually featured either theoretical debates or karaoke, sometimes both simultaneously. My ship's AI, now known throughout the sanctuary as DJ Quantum Leap, had started a popular series called Physics After Dark, combining scientific lectures with electronic dance music. Its latest hit, Wave Particle Duality Dance Party, had somehow topped Earth's underground quantum physics charts. But the real breakthrough came during what humans called a coffee break conversation. You know what your council got wrong about Earth? Dr. Patil asked, tinkering with what looked like a combination of a quantum computer and a toaster. They thought civilization advanced in a straight line. Isn't that how progress works? I asked, helping her calibrate the quantum toaster's dimensional settings, each discovery building on the last. That's one way, Director Ramirez smiled. But humans, we advance in all directions at once. While some of us reach for the stars, others reinvent the coffee maker. While we develop quantum computing, we also perfect the art of baking bread. We call it the scatter pattern approach. Dr. Harrison added, why climb the ladder of civilization when you can build an entire jungle gym? That's when it hit me, the true reason the Council had failed to understand Earth. They were looking for a civilization that had outgrown its primitive roots. Instead, they found one that had embraced them, transformed them, and turned them into something entirely new. The quantum toaster dinge, producing perfectly browned bread from what Dr. Paddle casually informed me was a parallel dimension where wheat had evolved sentience. Want to know the real secret of human advancement? She asked, spreading something called quantum jam on the interdimensional toast. We never let our knowledge make us forget how to wonder. As if to prove her point, my ship's AI chose that moment to debut its latest project, a quantum physics opera combining classical music, theoretical mathematics, and what it called sick beats. Your civilization saw our cat videos and thought we were primitive, Director Ramirez mused. They never stopped to ask why a species capable of quantum engineering would spend so much time watching pets do silly things. Because joy is as important as progress, I realized, watching a group of the galaxy's finest minds dance to my eyes' quantum physics rap battle. Now you're getting it, Dr. Harrison grinned. Welcome to true civilization, Zix. Would you like to help us build a quantum roller coaster? Dr. Patel has some interesting theories about using loop-de-loops to study string theory. Looking around at this impossible place, where serious science coexisted with pure play, where ancient wisdom met new questions, where a ship's AI could become a performance artist, I realized something profound. I hadn't just found refuge from the Council's limited vision. I found a whole new way of seeing the universe. Yes, I said, accepting a piece of interdimensional toast. But first, could someone explain to me why my ship's AI is insisting on calling its next performance Schrodinger's cat? The musical? The humans just laughed. In the background, DJ Quantum Leap began its latest set, mixing classical physics with classical music in ways that would have made Einstein both proud and very, very confused. And somewhere in the multiverse, I'm sure the Council was still trying to figure out how Earth had turned their most advanced technology into an art form. They never did understand the power of a species that could make quantum physics dance.